Erika Kirk just signal a presidential run while the internet's too busy arguing about war? I know it sounds a little wild, but if you pay attention to how presidential campaigns usually start, there's an actual pattern. People rarely wake up one day and suddenly announce that they're running for president, except maybe Jill Stein. Usually, they spend a long time building visibility first. More interviews, more public appearances, videos that introduce their story to people who have never heard of them before. By the time the official campaign announcement happens, the groundwork has already been laid. And that's why some people are starting to look at Erika Kirk a little differently right now. You could think of it like a puzzle. One piece by itself might not mean much, but when you start putting together several pieces, it begins to look like a picture, which is why part of this moment feels strange, because we are seeing announcements signaling this is about to go down. And when you look at everything else that's happening around her politically, the internet has been flooded with arguments about Donald Trump and war, especially with tensions involving Iran. Real quick, I'm Lauren Paritra, and if you're new here, please take a moment to make sure you're subscribed. We currently have a lead on Katie Miller, who, if you're new, is the wife of Stephen Little Bitch Miller, the pale white nationalist from Santa Monica. He's the guy behind all of this ICE terror, and she has a podcast that she's building on the backs of stolen children and immigrant families. So we got to maintain our lead out of pure principle. So consider every sub, every hype, every like, every comment, 6 words or more, following me across networks. Consider every single one of those individual actions as a direct FU to Katie and Stephen Little Bitch Miller. Back during the campaign in 2023, Trump talked constantly about ending foreign wars. There's a clip from this period where he says,
"We are never going back to a party that wants to give unlimited money to fight foreign wars that are endless wars."
We are never going back to a party that wants to give unlimited money to fight foreign wars that are endless wars, that are a lot of stupid wars. A lot of voters really believed that message. For many people, that was one of the biggest reasons they supported that man. But now you have to see the other clips circulating where Trump talks about military action in a completely different tone. Some of them include him talking about starting wars or expanding them.
No, I don't want to brag, but you know, they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of this shit I'm doing. The world respects us right now more than they have ever respected us before.
When people put those clips next to each other, what he said during the campaign, it feels like 2 completely different messages. And people are noticing. And what's interesting is that some of the criticism is coming from places that, might normally defend Trump. Even parts of the Manosphere are starting to live out and turn on him. For example, we have Dan Balzerian posting this: "Our Israel first, America last pedo president used multiple Tomahawk precision-guided missiles to blow up a children's school in Iran. Trump has used your tax dollars to murder 180 little girls." Let that sink in. And we can look at this clip from this weekend.
I don't like it when people think they're better than other people. And you see that in Israel, and they're acting like that.
When the Manosphere starts moving from the Trump Kool-Aid guzzling, the movement starts arguing internally about what's going down. People begin wondering what's coming next and who might end up leading it in the future. And that is where Erika Kirk and this conversation starts connecting. A few years ago, almost nobody outside of conservative activist circles knew who she was. She would show up occasionally at events with her husband, Charlie, who built Turning Point USA into one of the biggest alt-right organization networks on the right. And then Charlie Kirk was... After that, everything shifted. Erika Kirk suddenly was everywhere. She became the person most closely associated with the network he built. Since then, she has been appearing in more interviews and media conversations than we've ever seen. Her name pops up more often. More people are hearing from her directly. On its own, that might not mean anything, but then something else happened that made people pause. 2 of Charlie Kirk's longtime associates, Andrew Colvett and Tyler Boyer, don't know how to pronounce his name, started talking publicly about Erica's future. One of them spent years helping shape the messaging for Turning Point USA and worked closely with Charlie. The other, Boyer, is the organization's chief operating officer and one of the most senior figures in Turning Point USA leadership. During a conversation that circulated online, Colvett said, "I hope your audience knows this is what Charlie wanted." Then Boyer followed with something even bigger. He said, Charlie firmly believed Erica could be president of the United States. And that is a huge claim. And the evidence they offered was basically Charlie had told them privately. The conversation spread quickly online and also involved Chris Cuomo, which we're going to save that one for another day, which added another layer to the nuttiness of this and its reaction, because Cuomo has a reputation that he made himself that makes people skeptical of anything associated to him or his brother. Once those clips started circulating, people began interpreting them in different ways. Some think that Colvett and Boyer were just sharing their memories of conversations with Charlie. Others think that they were deliberately introducing the idea to the public and bringing them that conversation. And the idea is simple. Erika Kirk as a future presidential candidate, that's what they want us to be braced for. Then there is the irony, which makes this whole situation feel strange. For years, Charlie Kirk made a lot of statements about women that were pretty clear about the role he believed that they should occupy. He argued repeatedly that women were generally happier, speaking on their behalf, focusing on families and making sandwiches rather than careers. He said that women should not be pilots, especially not Black women, because pregnancy could interfere with flying.
Acknowledging that he wishes he didn't feel this way, he said, "I'm sorry, if I see a Black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." He said the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. How do you square that with the statements I just read?
I would love for everyone to be able to watch the full and entire clip of what he said.
He talked about, and he wanted us to be vessels for birthing 24/7. He also talked about how society pushes women into the workforce when many of them would prefer to stay at home making no money and having no place to live. And at one point, he even argued that feminism had convinced women to abandon their natural role, which he described as raising families, absorbing all of the free unpaid labor of a household, and supporting their husbands with being submissive vessels for birthing. Those comments were not isolated moments. They were all Charlie Kirk's broad worldview. He talked about these things often and never really took his foot off the gas with those. Erika Kirk has also echoed so many of these same ideas herself. In interviews, she never misses an opportunity to talk about women prioritizing family life, and she has repeated the same arguments about traditional roles while working herself. This is why some people find the current conversation weird, confusing. If the worldview they promoted was that like women should just be at home barefoot, naked in the kitchen, why is the same political network now talking about Erika Kirk becoming president? It creates a contradiction people are trying to make sense of, because the message for years was very clear about how the Kirk and the Turning Point USA people felt about what women were supposed to do. And now suddenly the same movement is floating the idea that one of them might run for the White House, that it's part of the story that does not quite add up yet. And the part I also want to dig in on more is because if something bigger is happening here, there are probably a lot of conversations and decisions happening behind the scenes that we have not seen yet. So one of the things that people typically do before they run for president, book tours to build a national profile. Sound familiar? Barack Obama toured for the Audacity of Hope before he began his 2008 run. Gavin Newsom, what's Gavin up to right now? He's on a national tour for A Young Man in a Hurry. He's having creators host every single one of those stops nearly. Pete Buttigieg toured Shortest Way Home before 2020. These tours also often look very similar to campaign events. They strategically select the cities that they go to, when they go to them, who's involved in those hosting moments. Another thing people do before they announce a presidential run, quiet fundraising and donor meetings. Before announcing potential candidates, they meet with major donors, PACs, political action committees, party fundraisers. Erika Kirk's been doing this since the moment her husband was offed. And there's also a lot of key signs too. Closed door-to-door dinners. Erika Kirk, Mar-a-Lago. Anyone remember that? There was like a $20,000 a plate dinner or something. They also hire campaign teams early on. You remember that casket video of Erika Kirk where it was like a very private, intimate moment of her at Charlie's casket. Didn't really need to be online, but who did she have filming that? Her Turning Point USA head of fundraising. We also see visiting early primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, holding town halls, local party events. Erika Kirk is on tour right now. Let's keep an eye on that. They also increased their national media presence. Is there any stage, conservative stage that this woman hasn't been on since her husband was off? And then we also see launching policy themes. So politicians often start talking heavily about big national issues. Erika Kirk seemed to be women belong in the home and as vessels for birthing. We're seeing a lot of eugenics messaging. We're seeing a lot of messaging around ICE good, people in cages good, anyone who resists that, not godly. Turning Point USA mandates in Texas and Florida, and then testing the waters. So many candidates do an exploratory committee. So they raise money, they run polling. We're going to keep digging in here because we think that there's some big dead giveaways. So if you want to follow where this goes next, I'm going to keep looking into the people around this story, what might actually be happening. We're going to dig in to see if there's been any filings. Make sure you are subscribed.